Hey, so I believe last time I animated this, right? And then it's gonna come around the corner. All right, let's continue. You can keep working on your stuff if you want, or you can watch how I animate this. So here he comes around the corner, and I was talking about how to pre-plan the contact. So here he comes in. So I'm gonna remove the motion trail because it will crash your machine. It takes so much RAM. So I'm gonna pre-plan these two steps, and it seems this a little too close. I'm just gonna move it out touch. That's good. And then next step, it is coming around the corner. Now, because he is using his right foot to pivot, and the pivot seems like it's not gonna be balancing, we try to avoid stuff like this. Like, yeah,
Are you recording this?
yeah. Thank you. So we try to avoid having him switching in air. You know, when he's pushing up with one leg, we try to get him, because I'm going around the corner, right? So this is my pivot, and the next step, it's really hard for him to come in like that, right? Because it's just one step. So most likely the next step, he's going to be coming out a little bit, and then pushing off to finish that turn. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Okay. So for now, this step is good, and the next step we're going to plan, we just want to make it like comic, right? We're going to put it around here. We just want to put in the key poses for now. And it shouldn't be too far. We don't want him to feel like he is pushing off from the right leg too much. And now we gotta find a spot to look at his legs. We want it to feel like he's pushing off at distance. So there's most likely the junior mistakes that they would make. They make a pose, but then it's not even running far. You see that? How do I know? Because this foot is not pushing off a lot, right? It's basically like on the same spot, but it's higher. So what we want to do is select all three controls, that is translating forward. Click on the channel, and then push it off. So put your mouse here just to mark it, or go to your top view. So there it is. See? Then we can push it off like that. Right, that's a pretty good distance. Maybe it's a little too far. There. Okay. There. And because we're here anyway, so we want to pose this upper body too. boom, right? Select the whole body, set a key, go to the next pose. You want to pose this too. You know, most of the time when you do blockings, you don't think arms and elbows are important, but they are pretty. If you make a right pose, they can be very appealing to the pose. And the next step, he could come in straight, or maybe get in a little bit there. If you animate a lot, then you will get a sense of how much the leg is stretching and what is the distance after it's stretched out. Right, this is not far enough. You can tell, right? So, you see his legs here, it is kind of pointing towards the screen. We can't do much about the knees, because if we don't fix the rotation of the foot, and we angle the knees like that, you see how it looks like it's broken, right? So when you set a pose like that, you gotta go back to the bottom of the problem, which is rotating the foot outwards. So the knee is pointing outward, and the foot and the knees, they are in the same line. One thing that looks off is because the body, the upper body, is too much at the center. When he's leaning like that, I think his upper body has to lean a little bit to the right too. Something like that. There, that's a good pose. Alright, now because we have him running to a speed like every 8 frames, so when you watch it, it will give you a beat like boom, 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 and it's pretty even. You know, when you read the footsteps with sound effects. So before he jumps off, we want to give him maybe like a quick steps, 6 frames of a step before he jumps up to the. He's jumping up here, right? Boom. 8, 8. So right here, I'm gonna add one small step. Okay, so he's gonna jump off to the first platform here. I'm just gonna do it in 3D views now. You can give him a little bit anticipation. Maybe 4 frames. Okay, so he's in a squash pose right now. Boom, boom. So when you do this kind of stuff, you gotta watch the COG's momentum. He can't just stop completely. Alright, so here it is. After the anticipation, you see there's the reaching out contact on the left. Anticipation. 2 frames after, you want to have the extreme stretch pose already, which is like that. And when you animate these kind of parkour sequence, you want to turn off the stretchy at all times. You can see that I'm pulling his leg really hard here. This is what I would do to fix it, just to push him closer, but keep his toe pointing at where he left off. There. And for the upper body, I won't limit you to animate without IK, because this is called IK back control, right? You can do whatever you want. You can stretch it, translate, rotate, but keep in mind you want to keep the volume around the same, because if you like stretch it out too much like that, and then you use the hip, move it up, and then you're breaking it, you know. So that's why I'm saying, like, when you translate it, don't overdo it. So to make a pose looks like it's staying for a while, you know, like these kind of poses, almost like the iconic pose that you want to keep it for a couple more frames, like maybe 3 to 4, boom, before it gets to the next pose. So you got to look at his trajectory, right? Here, if it comes up here, it looks a little bit too far. So maybe this pose here, you got to go a little higher. Boom, right? This is almost around that area. There you go. Now while holding this pose, you don't want to just hold it straight. You want to keep everything moving a little bit. It's like the extent of the previous pose. Extend means like you see when we watch his what leg is this? Right leg, for example. It's going forward, right? Boom, it's going forward. So the extend would be going a little bit more forward. And the back leg here is kicking up. Boom, so kick it up a little bit. But you also want it to stretch backwards a little bit too. So the whole pose is like stretching a little bit. Whoa. Okay. Now after you have done that, you want to go to your graph. Because it's not stopping there, right? But then it might automatically, it will make it flat at the end. So you want to select the last curve here. Click linear or spline. What is this? This is called spline tangents. Can you look at the bottom? You can see it here. Right, it's called spline tangents. So whenever you don't understand what button it is, just like hover on top and then go to your bottom left. It will say spline tangent. The next one is what? Clamp tangents. Linear, you know. Okay, so boom, and then we're gonna make him land. So how about we're gonna have him go a little higher. I'm gonna push this pose 2 more frames. With the 2 more frames, he's gonna go a little higher, okay? A little higher, a little further. Okay, so 2 frames after the hang time, we want to test out the timing. So I'm going to make him land with his right leg forward. And then 2 frames after, he's going to be coming to a squash. If you want him to land with 2 legs on the platform, that's fine. I mean, you can do something like this, just so he's landing. But then after, if he lands like that, because he's stopped with 2 legs, then you gotta anticipate for a little longer. Or if you want to do that kind of jump, that he lands, and then he's coming to another platform, then you gotta plan a little better. Planning a little better means like maybe don't have him come to a stop in here, have the COG travel a little bit, and then his legs would not be landing, would be doing these kind of things like in between poses. Alright, and then maybe let's try 2 frames after. You can see my pattern. I always set keys 4 frames and then 2 frames, just so I know the timing. If I want it faster, it will be reduced by 1 or add by 1. So again, 2 frames after, he's gonna stretch. Boom. You want to move him out a little bit too, because this platform is pretty far away. So it's time for me to turn on the editable motion trail. Take a look at this path. You see how he comes up pretty straight and then he leans over pretty quickly. We're gonna find out which axis is that. Let's translate that in here. Alright, you gotta smooth out these section here. So after frame 89, that's good, and then I will just remove these two. Okay, now after we've done that, smooth out that part, we want to have him jump on the next platform. Let's just move him over. Don't worry about the timing yet. It's pretty far away, right? Yeah, that's pretty far. So let's give him some hang time too. See, sometimes it is important to make sure it is spline, because then you don't mess up your in-between arcs. Look at these two. Alright, so make this linear. I mean, in the shape it looks linear, you don't have to press linear. Right, watch when I tune this curve. Right now it feels like it's coming forward and then it slows down, right? So once I click spline, you can see that the curve straight out, and then when we put it in between, we won't see it slowing down, because we have to put a hang time keyframe in here, right? See, it is nice and clean. I feel like he's a little too far, so I want to bring him back a little bit, like that. That's good. Boom. And then let's give him a landing pose with one leg, because he has. Boom. How many frames is this? The hang time is so short. It's only 6 frames. Let's make it longer. I want to give him a bicycle shape when he's in air, like boom, that kind of leg shuffling. So let's give him more air time. This push off. I'm selecting all the controls. You see, I'm just sliding keys over, right? So if from 07 to 19, that's what, 8 frames. So that's six. Wait. How many frames is this? 07 to 09, that's 12 frames. So 6 and 6. And then he lands. Yeah. And then we can try to put the keys from into the feet, see if it works out. Okay, so when you see the legs gimbaling like that, check in your graph, click curves Euler filter. It should realign the rotation.
I have a question about that. When you use the Euler filter, does that ruin like what you've done previously, or does it affect it all?
Right now I'm clicking just these 3 keys and it should realign just these 3.
Oh, so.
Well, no, it will. So if it doesn't work, it realign the backwards too. So if it doesn't work, you have to adjust it manually. But you know, something like that. Yeah. We don't have time to do 2 steps. I mean, the time frame is so short, so let's do 1 leg shuffle. I think twice is better. Okay, let's give him more hang time. Let's go crazy. This is so messed up. So you gotta remember. I gotta remember. 03 is where it takes off. 05 is the stretch. So if I pull any keys, it will be 07 is the hand time. Okay, it will be this guy. So let's give it 4 more frames. 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy slides over by 2. Delete this guy, because that's the legs. Okay, let's try it out. If we don't animate the leg shuffling, we will never see it, so we gotta just do it. And I mean, you don't have to do your homework like that. This just demonstrating if you want to go for something interesting, you know. And one problem I have in here is the legs, they are not pointing at that direction. See, I'm animating every 2 frames now. So in the perspective, I'm gonna set the camera looks like he is coming straight from that path to the other platform. Then we can see the animations a little better, right? Like right now we can see that his body is not even turning towards where he's jumping. So this is the squash, that's good. And the next pose he would be turning already. Boom. Have him face. You see that cross in the ball, in the manipulated ball, it's pointing towards us. You know, when I line him up from that A platform to the B platform. Right now he's a little away, so you want to point him here, right? So you know his body is going in a straight line. Or we can use the graph editor to help out. Sorry, the editable motion trail to help out. Then we know all his legs is kind of messed up. See right here, it would be pointing towards us a little bit, right? Well, because we're in this camera angle, let's just do the other legs too. Yeah, something like that. For this landing, I'm going to give him a 3 frames because he's quite high. And his left foot is in the front, so let's keep that. You don't have to always drag his other foot behind, you know, like, I mean, drag it like means you don't have to do something like this, right? It could, they could arrive almost same timing. Boom. So I would say he would land his other foot maybe 3 frames after. Let's just set a key pose of him landing. The left foot would be more in the front though. So I'll probably have to move this platform a little further. Now because we're doing this on our own, so it doesn't really matter. When you receive a shot, when you move a set piece, you gotta ask, can I move that set piece? Because sometimes they're not designed to be moved around. That Ant-Man shot I was doing, the buttons that he's pressing on, they rigged it a couple times. The first time it was just the button without pressing in. The second time they add a switch so the button is coming down. The third layer, because it's on the leather glove, they add a glove control so the button press down and you can sink it in a little more so you feel the fabric. So I animated that contact like 3-4 times just because they add stuff on it, right? See, when I'm doing this pose right here, his right knee is in the front. In that case, you want to switch his body a little bit so his left shoulder is lower. And we want to put his arm behind, so you keep that right leg in the front and then right arm is behind him, that kind of opposite pose. We have more room anyway to plant his arm in the left arm in the front, like that. See? Look at this pose. And then now we can think about angling. Like, there's not even a render cam, but we want to have a more dynamic pose. Like, legs are coming out a little bit. You don't see a straight thing. When I say straight, like, you see his knees and toe and thigh, they're pretty straight. You see that? That's what I call straight, right? So you can angle it a little bit. See, like that, a little bit, with a little angle. That is a pretty nice pose, actually. Okay, so let's take a look at the chest. We gotta think about the connecting too, so something wrong here. I feel like, let's turn on the motion trail again. And I'm gonna save this. Okay, it's recording. No worries. It's 42 minutes already. All right. So you see this point in here, it is really sharp. We can push this a little higher. You guys understand how to see the graph, right? See, that's a nice and round. It will reflect on your motion trail if you tune a nice path.
When you're like doing that work on the graph, like gonna have, like I say, I'm doing the work on the graph and have a motion trail, then which one do you guide yourself, like the graph or the motion trail? Let's say to get a smoother curve on the motion trail, I have to do something funky with the graph.
That's what I usually do. I look at both, but I won't tune the motion trail because it moves all the axes. I know you can like, oh, go in here and make this higher or lower.
No. I mean,
No?
just by using the graph, but sometimes, so like, say I want to get like the specific curve on the motion trail.
Yeah.
So I'm adjusting the graph, but to get the curve, like to look how I want in the motion trail, I gotta do, sometimes like break a tangent or something else on the graph.
Sure, you can break a tangent. That's fine.
Is that okay? It doesn't matter if you.
Well, the outcome is important, right? So if it pops, then you after you break a tangent, you may want to smooth it a little bit, right? In some cases, for example, like if I'm throwing a ball, for example, right? So if I'm throwing this ball, right? The moment when my hand is throwing, the tangent should be linear, right? Because I'm not going to slow down. I'm going to throw this. And then when this ball is constrained off and then it's flying off, you won't flat the tangent, right? You will make the tangent linear. So it's going to be linear, going to linear. Then you won't see a different speed change. It will be a linear path on both arms and the object, right? In this case, you may want to break a tangent because you don't have the previous key that is changing the animation when it's just on and off. But then when you do these kind of stuff, I won't break a tangent. You see, I animate every 2 frames anyway, so it's gonna be like breaking a tangent. Yeah. And when curves are like this spaced out, you don't want to break a tangent because it's really obvious. Like once you break a tangent, you see the speed change slower suddenly.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing the like arm strings and tried to get the loops, like I had to like do some like do some grids, but some like break some tangents, and the graph like wouldn't work like smooth.
Yeah, after you break a tangent, you have to tune the handle afterwards. You see right here, translates that. This key should be there. And it shouldn't be slowed down. See, this is why tuning this is important. Oh. That's nice. That's I'm looking at, you guys know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at how the leg is stepping in air. So when you do this, you kind of have to look at the shin. That's called a shin, right? To look at, if it's like a clock arm, right? There's pointing at 7:30, and then it's pointing at 6:30, and it's pointing at 5. Like this here, it would be a little bit. You know what I mean? Like 5. Okay. So boom, boom. There. That's pretty good. And then now these two, they're pretty close. There. Right? And then the next two, they're pretty close. Do you see it now? You see the difference, right? Cool. Okay, so for the upper body, it's kind of easy to handle. I want to shape him so he's a little bit stretched out overall. Okay, so if you look at this right arm here, I did something wrong in the motion. It comes up, and I make him come. It swings up, right? And then at the peak here, I make him swing down. So what should the motion be? The ideal motion. So he's swinging up like that, right? He's swinging up like that. If I force him down in midair, it's kind of like he will have to swing really hard. So make him go like boom. Actually have him swing backwards, like doing a backstroke. In here. Don't worry about the gimbal at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the motion trail. I have the basic timing in here. Just want to plan a better camera now. And you see this animation is in one piece right now. I haven't separated in two shots. So let's take a look. And I told you guys about the cam cut in one frame, right? Oh, I haven't finished this part. Damn it. Okay, let's make it closer. Boom. When I'm doing this camera move, I want to have a comical feeling. So you guys can try rolling the camera a little bit. Usually, if the show is not too stylish, they want to keep, for example, like this building here, they want to keep this line straight. They don't want any roll. So if you do that, it's more like your artistic view of things. They may ask you to change it anyway. I'm gonna try doing this, okay? And there's also another rule. If your character hasn't jumped yet, you don't want to have if your character is not jumping yet, you want your camera to stay on the ground. It's always like a 2 frames offset. See, don't have him roll or anything yet. Don't give any hint that he's gonna jump yet. Yeah. You don't want to do that because then they seem like parent together, and he's not on the curve anyway. You know what I mean? He's not on the path or anything. He's not like a curve shot. You know, when I animate that shot, the Superman shot in my demo reel, I had the camera going with Superman, and then I found out when you have the constraint on and you turn it off, the camera immediately comes to a stop, and Superman keeps going. That 1 frame of a difference is really hard to fix. In the end, I have to put the camera on its own path, and then later on it's just keyframing, because it's really hard to, when you have the channel on your graph, did you animate path before? No, you haven't? Okay, we'll talk about it in next term. Something like that. Right in here, you don't want to translate your camera up. Just tilt it up to frame him better. We don't want anything to cut off. and I taught you guys about camera shakes, right? Okay, that's good. Okay, let's stop at 132 frames in here. What do you think about this workflow so far? It's pretty straight to the point, animating key poses and adjusting the path. I think that moment when he's in the air, it could be longer. The first jump feels pretty right. Maybe another 6-7 frames more in the hang time. I'm gonna pause here, and then because 8 o'clock already, you guys should keep going on your work. I'm gonna upload this